Welcome to the podcast. I'm Corey.
I'm Natalie.
And I'm Jen. And we are the Art History Babes.
Today's episode will be talking about the Guerrilla Girls, which I'm particularly excited about because that means we're diving into feminism.
Finally.
Woo! It's gonna get a little political. It's gonna get interesting though.
But also really funny.
Yeah. But before we get started, our girl Ginny isn't here today because she's off doing her intern thing.
Running museums.
Just being an amazing woman.
Being a business babe.
So in her honor, we are drinking gin cocktails.
Gin for gin.
We miss you, Ginny.
Ginny.
That's to you.
Love you, Ginny.
Little strong, Nat? So, before we get into everything, everyone's been jet setting. We've all been all over the place. And I think there's some good anecdotes that we want to share with you guys.
Yeah, just traveling about. Let's start with, why don't we start with Natalie? Natalie went to beautiful, gorgeous Maui. She is so bronze right now, you guys. It's unbelievable.
A little bit better than my pale complexion I was working with all quarter.
Please.
Okay, so while in beautiful Maui, we saw many an art gallery, which is cool. I didn't realize that there were so many art galleries in Lahaina. And while at a gallery, I was with some friends, and one of the guys I was with pointed out that there were, no women in the gallery. Artists, female artists. There were, 2 out of the, 20-something artists that they represented. And it was really disappointing, and it fits perfectly with our topic this week, so just thought I'd throw that out there.
It's really appropriate.
Yeah.
Appropriate
bummer.
Yeah, it's an appropriate bummer. Yeah, speaking of appropriate bummers, I, too, had some art moments. I went to New York City over the last week in Manhattan, went to the Met. I've never been to the Met, and it was exciting. They have everything. And what I noticed, however, is that they represent women. They do. They represent women. Many a naked woman painted by a man. And
newest member of the Guerilla Girls right here.
Yeah. And I mean, I, just as much as anybody else who has studied art history, appreciates the nude feminine body for what it represents in the sense of studying anatomy or representing these archetypes. It was very hard not to notice that there are very few women artists in the Met, and that really is really appropriate to notice, considering that the Guerilla Girls had one of their most famous posters actually points out that the Met basically represents naked women and not women artists. For a museum that covers an ungodly amount of square footage, it seems very short-sighted that women artists are so pitifully represented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the statistics are pretty alarming, and statistics don't lie. So this isn't women making a fuss. That's
hard science is what that is.
It's math.
True. Yeah, and New York City, man. Gosh, it's a trip of a place. I also went to the Neue Gallery. That was very interesting. They had the Edvard Munch exhibit.
Ooh.
Very cool. Very cool. A lot of existential dread. I left there feeling very existential. And funnily enough, many that really characterizes New York City. We saw a man.
Existential dread.
Yeah, existential dread in New York City. Yeah, we saw a man. This is just another. This has nothing to do with anything. We just saw a guy
But it's a great story.
We just saw a guy, and I don't know, it was like 2 a.m, and of course, we're out there, and there was a guy, and he's got his entire body just inside of a phone booth, like a payphone, which was amazing. I've never seen a payphone within the last 10-15 years.
Yeah.
Payphone. And he was reciting spoken word a la William Shatner, the lyrics to Hotline Bling. And yeah.
It's ironic that it wasn't a cell phone.
Yeah, it wasn't a cell phone. It was
Did he change the lyrics to
no,
payphone?
he was literally like he's saying very solemnly. Well, he didn't sing, he spoke. He was just like, you used to call me on my cell phone late night. You guys didn't need to know that. I don't know why I just told that story, but anyway, traveling, it's fun. But now I'm back, and we're here, and we're gonna do this podcast.
And I went to Utah.
Oh yeah,
Famous for their art.
Unfortunately, I didn't really experience much art while I was out there. I wanted to go see Spiral Jetty because it's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And it's the official artwork of Utah, like the official state artwork, which is kind of cool.
Wait, what happened? Why didn't you go see it?
I just didn't have a car.
Oh, yeah.
It's way out there.
Yeah, you kind of need a car.
Yeah, it's really out there. I don't think a Lyft would have taken me out there. They would have probably thought that I was trying to murder them or something. But so yeah, went to Utah. Didn't really get to do anything art related, but it was beautiful. I got to be part of a beautiful wedding, so that was awesome. And
There was dogs.
there were dogs in the wedding. It was so perfect. It was on a mountain. It was art in itself. It was art come to life. But yeah, so we've all been on our little adventures, which has been really nice. A little break from things. But now we back.
We here.
We here, and we're gonna talk about some stuff. So Natalie and Jen's stories were kind of little teasers concerning what we're talking about today, which is the Guerrilla Girls. So the Guerrilla Girls is a collective that started in New York City in 1985. And they refer to themselves as feminist activist artists. So that's a lot of descriptors there.
A lot of ists.
Yeah, we got a lot of things going on. I've gotten a few different numbers. One website said over 100 members since 1985. And their official website said over 55 members. So I don't know. I don't know if
Technically, they don't contradict one
They
another.
don't. So somewhere in that realm. But so
That's actually part of their tactics is undisclosed numbers of members. So
yes, anonymity is very important to them, which actually kind of leads to the next thing. They wear gorilla masks when they're in public. They do this as a way to conceal their identity. In addition to the gorilla masks, they also all have adopted pseudonyms of female artists or just notable female people from the past. Like some of the founders, like there's Frida Kahlo and Gertrude Stein. So
Kathy Kollwitz.
yeah, so you have all these pseudonyms of notable women. So if you hear us referring to like famous female artists, we're most likely just talking about it in the context of a pseudonym.
We'll try and be specific.
Yeah.
Because it can get very confusing.
Yeah, but just assume that unless we clear it up.
Like Frida wasn't out there causing
Wearing a gorilla mask.
But she would have been.
That we
She
know
would
of.
have.
She would have been.
Girl.
Frida.
Also, another quick clarification while we're on the topic of clarity. So gorilla is spelled like guerilla, like you'll say it better.
Guerilla.
Look at she's so good at it. She's so pretty. So so it's spelled Guerrilla, like guerrilla fighters, but the gorilla mask came out of a member who was very bad at spelling, which is kind of awesome.
Ah.
And super cute.
Yeah.
What was the story there?
Just one of their founding members one time just misspelled it. They spelled
it gorilla.
Yeah, Gorilla.
The ape.
Yes.
Excuse me, Natalie. It's an ape.
Not a monkey.
And after they made fun of her for a while, they were like, wait a minute, that's a really good idea. And that's where the gorilla masks came from.
God, so good.
Yeah, right?
So don't learn to spell, kids. No need.
So the Guerrilla Girls were founded by 7 women artists in the spring of 1985. According to an article written by one of the founding members that's entitled Guerrilla Girls Broadband Inside Story, what kind of set it off was that a curator at the MoMA, Canaston McShine.
It's not funny. It's not.
That's quite the name, though.
Canaston.
Yes. So MoMA curator Canaston McShine.
We don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. Honestly, we could be butchering this man's name.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
well.
I'm not going to apologize because
he wasn't a good guy.
I don't know that, but this is what he said, and this is what kind of started the Guerrilla Girls. He said that anyone not in the exhibition, an international survey of painting and sculpture, should re-examine his career.
Ooh.
And
that's a dick comment anyway, and then to add sexism on top of it.
For real.
Come on.
And in this particular exhibition of 169 artists, only 13 of them were women. So that's not a good ratio. But anyway, so the girls who were working artists at the time, were pretty pissed off about this. So, as Natalie already mentioned a little bit, these kind of statistics are at the heart of a lot of their work. They use these numbers to really kind of drive their point home. Like, you can't deny that 13 out of 169 is a pretty terrible ratio. So they founded the group. Their strategy was kind of they wanted to name names while still maintaining anonymity, all with a sense of humor. So there was this idea that they wanted to do this, but they wanted it to be funny, and they wanted to find the right balance between humor and hopelessness, because unfortunately it is, just speaking from a feminist point of view, it feels rather hopeless sometimes, but the best way to deal with that is humor. So what they started doing is that they started to meet together in smaller groups and figure out ways to kind of engage in this guerrilla feminism, where they wanted to make their message known in a very clear but yet humorous way. It kind of, there was actually and continues to be a lot of internal debate in terms of how to go about this, because this is a really big project that the Guerrilla Girls took on. They wanted to just take on the art world and misogyny in the art world.
And patriarchy.
Yeah, they wanted to take down the patriarchy, and we all know that is very difficult.
Yeah,
We're just out here trying to do it, but it's hard. So there
Is it hard?
I don't know. It shouldn't be this hard. It really shouldn't be.
Pretty hard.
But yeah, so there was a lot of kind of disagreement within the group. One of the examples that kind of stuck out to me was that apparently early on, one of the early members kind of felt that the term girls, Guerrilla Girls, was actually demeaning to feminists, which actually kind of reminded me of us and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're the art history babes, and babes has kind of this sexual connotation.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we're all
Also a pig connotation.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
an adorable pig.
An adorable pig.
Which I am 100% for.
What I really like about using words like girls or babes or whatever, it's I think that there's nothing wrong or anti-feminist with finding some sort of empowering message or whatever it would be through using words like, hey, we're a bunch of girls, or hey, oh, look, we're the babes. I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you guys think? We're calling ourselves the art history babes. I think now is a good time to talk about what we're calling our podcast.
I would agree 100%. I definitely consider it more of an empowering thing. That being said, I also I just call people that I like babe. Like,
I
I like you guys, and you're my babes.
Aww.
So, like, I think it's just an endearing thing to call people.
It's true. I call everyone babe.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of, it's kind of like it's like an old blues mama thing.
Yeah.
Like, babe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I like the mentality that feminism and having a feminist outlook is allowing women to make their own decisions and call themselves and other women what they would like to call them. In a way, I think it's valid that this member thought that that was demeaning, because for her maybe it was, whereas it's perfectly rational that other members wouldn't find it to be demeaning, and I don't think either's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's like such an important part of feminism that so many people maybe don't quite notice, is like, it's about the discussion. It's about the whatever you feel or experiencing in your feminism, in your womanhood, like, that is valid, and you should be able to discuss it. Like,
and you shouldn't shame other women for not feeling maybe the exact way that you do about a certain situation.
I think that feminism, I mean, to be super general, is that feminism enables women to make their own decisions, and that's it. I don't think that there needs to be much more than that when discussing like what labels they want to use, whether it's something like bitch magazine or calling your best friend a slut or a hoe. Like, oh, what's up, slut? I don't know. Don't call me a slut. I'll fight you. But, if that's what you like, then go ahead, and that's fine.
It's definitely just being able, like, obviously all of us are comfortable with the term babes. We all agreed upon it as our name for our podcast. So, like, we obviously all like it. I feel like when I do tell people the name of the podcast, I've gotten a little bit of, like...
Have they scoffed?
No, I don't know if scoffing is that right? But
has there been scoffing?
Jen's gonna go start a fight.
Someone's
She's
scoffing.
But I do think it's kind of questionable, and personally I like that. I like the fact that it opens up a conversation. I think that's better than not, But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's just a term of endearment for us. Now, if you don't like being called babe, like, that's fine. Like, you have every right to not want to be called that as a human being.
And if you don't want to be called a Guerilla Girl, you have every right.
For real. So anyways, back to the Guerilla Girls. So the Guerilla Girls in the mid-'80s, they started making a lot of what they have referred to as outrageous visuals. A lot of posters, and a lot of times they would go out in the middle of the night in New York City in the 80s, and they'd put these posters up like every other street artist.
So cool.
Yeah, right? Like,
very grassroots.
Yeah, definitely. They were right out there at, like, the beginning of it. They probably, like, ran into, like, Keith Haring and stuff, like, out on the streets. Actually, when did he die? Was he dead yet?
I think he died in the early 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, kind of to get into a discussion of some of those visuals, one of their early posters from 1988 called "The Advantages of Being a Woman Artist," and it's white background, black text. It says "The Advantages of Being a Woman Artist" takes up like a third of the poster in big letters, and then there's just a list, and this is what it says. Working without the pressure of success, not having to be in shows with men, having an escape from the art world in your 4 freelance jobs, knowing your career might pick up after you're 80, being reassured that whatever kind of art you make, it will be labeled feminine, not being stuck in a tenured teaching position, seeing your ideas live on in the work of others, having the opportunity to choose between career and motherhood, not having to choke on those big cigars or paint in Italian suits, having more time to work when your mate dumps you for someone younger, being included in revised versions of art history, not having to undergo the embarrassment of being called a genius, getting your picture in the art magazines wearing a gorilla suit. And then at the bottom it says a public service message from Guerilla Girls, conscious conscience of the art world. So this was one of their early posters. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
It hurts my heart.
I know, right? Oh, God. But it's so honest.
Yeah.
And funny.
And yeah, it's pretty funny.
So clever.
They really are. So that's a big one that they did. And then in 89, they did what is probably their most notable image, called Do Women Have to Be Naked to Get into the Met Museum? And this one, it says, that's exactly what it says on it. Once again, do women have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? And then they have appropriated Aang's odalisque, and then they put a gorilla mask on it. So
it looks great.
If you're not familiar, Aang's odalisque is just a very famous painting, and it's of a naked, sensual woman
with no joints
Yeah.
that make any sense.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, it's very like idealized. It's not realistic. I mean, it's a beautiful painting, but yeah, it's a early nude. Does anyone know when that was painted?
I think Aang's odalisque was probably 17th century.
Maybe. Natalie will look it up for us.
We're about to find out.
But so we've got that with the gorilla mask, where the head normally is. And then underneath it says less than 5% of the artists in the modern art section are women, but 85% of the nudes are female.
That painting is from 1814.
17th century.
Yeah, 17th century, so 1814. So we have this, and this one was in 89, and that's an accurate statistic.
And that's real. I was just there, and I gotta say, there are rooms dedicated to naked women, and I don't know where the women artist room was.
And that's the thing that they've done with this image, actually, is they keep updating it. They keep updating it with new statistics and sometimes different museums. I think the most recent of this exact one was in 2012, and the updated statistic is not any better. It's less than 4% of artists in the modern sections are women, but 76% of the nudes are female. So slightly less nudes, but also slightly less women artists. So we don't really have a better situation there. And then in 2014... they kind of did a newer version that kind of branches out a little bit into a different realm of visual culture, in which it says, do women have to be naked to get into music videos? And then they've kind of superimposed this like naked woman. I don't know if she's actually from a music video.
I got the background on this one.
All right.
So this was a piece that they appropriated for Pharrell's Girl show in, when was that, 2010?
This was
2012?
I think it was 2014.
2014. All right. Yeah. Okay. So in 2014, Pharrell Williams, babe, I can call him that because we have that sort of relationship. He curated an exhibition titled Girl, and he opened it at the Perrotin Gallery in France and wanted to include and empower women artists. So he asked the Guerrilla Girls to create work for the show. They accepted, but on the condition that they could address the inclusion of women in the music industry, specifically music videos, and if they could also address the women represented by the gallery. So they were able to take swings at not only music video culture, visual culture, but also at the gallery where the show was exhibited, and they were allowed to do that, which is pretty cool. So they pointed out, within the image that Corey was talking about earlier, they included what's her name? Emily Rada. What's that her name? I can't say her last name. Rada Janows. I can't say it. You guys know her. She's the one who's naked in the music video.
Girl.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for butchering your name, girl. But I meant that in a friendly, whatever. So it's her body, and that's been superimposed over the original, still with the gorilla mask. And then it basically says, do women have to be naked to be in music videos? And they showed it at the thing. And if you guys don't know, Pharrell was in the music video that is calling out. So kudos to you for being a good sport, Pharrell. Robin Thicke, think about your actions.
Think about your life and your decisions.
Well, I mean, everyone saw the whole Miley Cyrus situation with Robin Thicke, right?
No.
When they performed together?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's safe to say that he might not have the greatest idea about feminism, but that's okay. You know what? He's gonna learn.
Yeah.
He's gonna learn today.
And that is a damn catchy song.
I really like that song.
I know,
it's
too.
terrible.
I like, when I really stopped and thought about it, I was like, shit, like, I want to like this song.
Bad
but
feminists.
I know.
God. So disappointed. God.
Damn it.
Anyway.
So that's kind of some of the more contemporary stuff they've been doing. And yeah, kudos to Pharrell for getting in there and just like...
For real.
Yeah, so
yeah.
he goes by For Real now?
That's what I heard. I don't know why he would do this. You know, everyone's taking a cue off of Prince. Artists want to, you know, rebrand. Anyway, For Real, Pharrell, we salute you.
Yeah, we need to look this up, I feel like. And,
New name, same beautiful face.
Yeah. Same ageless face.
Yes.
He has not aged a day since
He
I
just
was
needed to
in
mix
middle
it
school.
up because
Yeah.
he doesn't look any differently.
Yeah.
So he needs to sound different.
And just wear really big hats.
Smokey the Bear.
Pharrell, I love you so much.
Yeah, we all do.
Pharrell, if you're listening, we love you.
Come on our show sometime. Okay, so kind of like what you can get from these images, which will be posted on our website, arthistorybabes.com. Is that their style, they kind of appropriated the visual language of advertising, which was just a very popular thing that started in the 80s. Jenny Holzer is a great female artist who did this a lot in the 80s. She's one of my personal favorites, so you should check her out. But that was just a big thing with like the advent of street art, also just like this appropriation of this like advertisement style. And that's exactly what they were doing and continue to do. They have also written a couple of books that are pretty incredible. The first one we have here, and it's called The Guerrilla Girls Bedside Companion to the History of Western Art.
You guys should buy this book.
Oh, this is the second book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I thought it was the second one too, or the first one, but they have a 1995 book called Confessions of a Guerrilla Girl.
Okay, so that's the first book, Confessions of a Guerrilla Girl, and then The Bedside Companion was published in 98. And this one I think is their most known book.
Yeah.
It's a great book, you guys.
It is.
I would suggest buying it. At least go check it out at your library. It's a fun book. And what really makes this book for me are the quotes. Because I don't know how many of our listeners out there are acquainted with the rigors of the survey art history class. But, it's kind of broken down from, like, classical era to, like, romantic art and like impressionism and modernism and contemporary. So the book is divided up in these sections much as your typical survey art history textbook would look like. And at the beginning of each section are some lovely quotes by contemporary writers of the given era. I really enjoy a few of these here. This one's good. It is absurd to argue from an analogy with wild animals and say that men and women ought to engage in the same occupations, for animals do not do housework. Oh, Aristotle. From the 4th century BC. Aristotle.
He was wrong on just about everything.
This is a fun book, you guys. Really. Check it out.
And especially if you are the proud owner of an overly priced art historical survey text like Gardner's, you owe yourself buying this book to go along with it. It is much more reasonably priced at about $20 on Amazon.
Amazon Prime.
You can get it for even cheaper used. I mean, it's very funny and interesting.
But also highly informative and real.
I feel like that would be a really just fun thing to do, to go through your gardener's survey text right alongside of this
book,
one
yeah.
and just like see the difference. I feel like that could be really interesting.
What does that look like?
A vagina.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm doing like a live reading of this.
Is this
book.
a book of hours?
Yes,
Oh,
the
okay,
Guerilla
nice.
Girls book of ours.
Oh.
That's the clitoris.
Yes, definitely. The little star
It's
at
a
the top.
star. That's
not
my
a very
star.
little star. It's a very prominent star.
So what we're looking at is essentially an illuminated manuscript.
By Hildegard von Bingen.
Yes, and I love illuminated manuscripts; they're beautiful. But the image the specific image is it in certain ways
It's like a mandala.
Yeah, it's like a mandala, but kind of in the shape of the female anatomy a little bit, and
It's definitely genitalia.
yeah, definitely. But
it's modest genitalia.
yeah, it's not. I mean,
Classy.
we're talking in terms of just like in
Like
terms of
O'Keeffe.
yeah, we're talking like shapes and stuff. It doesn't actually look like a vagina, but you can tell what's going on here. And yeah, there's this very pronounced little star at the top that I think you're right. That's probably
A clitoris.
the sweet spot.
That's the clitoris. The point of
just like saying
it's clitoris.
You're gonna get us like rated NR.
I know, right?
I'm sorry. I know it's a dirty word. I know
it's not. It's a beautiful word.
Right.
It's
right?
not dirty.
Yeah.
We need to own these
breathy.
things. Yeah, the breathy clitoris is a little much.
It's the name of my my punk band.
Breathy
my
clitoris.
Riot Girl band. Anyway, okay. The point. The point of discussing this image is that in the Guerilla Girls Bedside Companion to the History of Western Art, you will see artworks that you may not normally see in your conventional art history survey textbook. And yes, they can be kind of funny, but honestly, there's a lot of really interesting information here, just illuminating how much this art is neglected in your everyday like Pearson textbook.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's really problematic, because these are the textbooks that are being sold to undergraduates at colleges for hundreds of dollars.
As literally the history of art.
Exactly.
Here is this book. This is the entire history of art for you. And it's just not. It's not the truth. But that image we were just discussing we'll put up on the website. For you all.
You have to see it,
You'll
because
get to
we went on for a while
And I
about
think,
it.
it's not as erotic
It's not
as
as
we made it sound.
pornographic.
Yeah.
I feel like people are gonna look at it and they're like, that?
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's what you guys were looking at?
Yeah. No, it's actually really
Perverts.
it's really beautiful. But yeah, so anyways, it's a really amazing little book they put together. You should definitely check it out.
I love this book.
Another book they wrote in 2003, I have not got my hands on yet, but I really, really want to. It's called Bitches, Bimbos, and Ball Breakers, the Guerilla Girls Illustrated Guide to Female Stereotypes, where the Guerilla Girls, essentially, they go into the female stereotypes that are pervasive throughout culture, including the old maid, the trophy wife, the prostitute, and the heart of gold. And I don't know, I'm personally really interested in like female archetypes and female stereotypes, so I feel like this could be a really fascinating book, but yeah, unfortunately I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Yeah, we don't have that one.
What do you have?
We have the Amazon preview.
Ooh!
Oh, Amazon.
They should be sponsoring us right now. Like, they're getting a lot of airtime.
Amazon, if you're listening, we're out here.
No, you are.
So in the preview, we've got this image, and it's of a Guerilla Girl, a woman standing with her back to the audience, with wearing no shirt and wearing a Guerilla Girls mask. And then the text in the background says, not an Aunt Jemima, ball breaker, biker chick, bimbo bitch, bombshell, bra burner, bull dyke, butch, call girl, Carmen Miranda, China doll, dumb blonde, feminazi, flapper, geisha girl, next door, gold digger, good Catholic girl, harem girl, home girl, hot tamale, Indian princess, Jewish princess, lady boss, lipstick lesbian, Lolita, madam, Mother Teresa, nympho, old hag, old maid, pinup girl, prude, Rosie the Riveter, slut, soccer mom, squaw, stage mom, supermodel, Tokyo Rose, tomboy, trophy wife, valley girl, vamp, wicked stepmother, yummy mummy.
And it says, don't stereotype me.
Yeah. So that's kind of, that
was a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Well
alliteration.
done, too.
Thank you.
You read that
God.
very well.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Damn, girl, that's like some,
yeah.
I want to like snap to that.
I wanted to be a rapper in middle school, so there.
It's finally coming full circle.
Wow.
But yeah, so in addition to all of that visual material and their books, they've also staged so many protests and so many workshops. If you go onto their website, which is guerillagirls.com, I believe, they have an archive that's just insane. Like, you can go back all the way back to the beginning, and it's just like every little thing they've done, and they have done so much. So you should definitely look into it. Some other notable things about the Guerilla Girls, they have work that kind of focuses on other political social issues, not just issues in the art world. One example is a poster they did in 1991, in which it says, question, what's the difference between a prisoner of war and a homeless person? And the answer is, under the Geneva Convention, a prisoner of war is entitled to food, shelter, and medical care. And then there's an image of kind of just this, like, I think it's like a cop just bothering a homeless person. It's nothing violent, but he's just kind of like poking at this homeless person on a bench. So their work definitely springs outward into other political issues and other social issues, not just those within the art world. But in terms of those issues in the art world, that's obviously been their main concern as they were formed by artists, so they're more entrenched in that. And I don't know, do you want to talk about this, Jen? Kind of how the whole idea came from this idea, like it came from the fact that the art world is very much, the art market is very much run by just billionaire white men art collectors, and that has led to basically their interests being at the forefront of what's actually being shown in art collections, and that's a problem for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so in 1986, the Guerilla Girls had a series of panels as well as conventions where essentially responding to criticism of not being very accessible by press or art collectors or curators, the people that they're essentially lambasting in their activism, complain. They said, well, how are we supposed to respond to these activists? We don't know who they are. We can't talk to them. So they responded, and in 1986 there was one panel entitled it was called Passing the Buck, and that one was Passing the Bucks, an evening with art dealers. So in the Passing the Bucks panel, freelance writer Stephen Westfall, who was actually not admired, but maybe given high marks among the Guerilla Girls as being a writer who devoted at least 30% of his articles to women artists, Westfall emphasized that the prejudice in the art world reflects prejudice in culture at large. And his quote was that the big money art world is a world of privilege, and the patriarchy of Western culture is accentuated in arenas of privilege. So that really, I think, sums it up very well. What is essentially happening in most of the contemporary art world is a world that is ruled by money, and in spheres of, especially in the United States, which is a quintessential like capitalist country, the white male really does dominate the elite art world. And
well, to be fair too, like it's it's definitely very real in the contemporary art world, but it's always been the reality, like the reality of the art world. It's always been, this was actually a quote from an interview with some of the Guerrilla Girls, but the history of art is the history of power. It's the history of who's in power, and it's expression of what they want to be expressed. Like if you go all the way, like if we go back to the 17th century, it's just kings and queens having themselves painted because that's what they want to be shown. So it's kind of those in power, and typically those in power are the ones with money, showing their experience and what they want to be shown.
And it's slightly transitioned because when we're talking, 17th century through, I mean way further back, but also I'd say through the 19th maybe century, you're dealing with the wealthy commissioning works. So what they want is what gets created. Whereas now, artists have more freedom in what they create, but to a certain degree, you can only make a living creating what will be bought.
Yeah, exactly.
So if the buyers are predominantly white males, then you have the best luck selling things that they want to buy. And that's just, it's kind of turned on its head, but not in a positive way, just pretty much the same situation.
Definitely.
Yeah, and something that the Guerrilla Girls are doing that is really beneficial in the sense of like second wave feminism and other theorists is that they're not just, okay, so, just pause. So first wave feminism, we can think of as like the 1960s, early 1970s. These are the feminists that were popularized by their like bra burning sort of like public demonstrations. And unfortunately, these demonstrations, I think, sort of changed or it sort of like tainted the message of feminism a little bit. I think that moderates who saw what was happening at these rallies were more likely to label feminists as extremists who were essentially grandstanding and kind of too extreme, really, I think, to become popularized among like mainstream media culture, which, as much as I wish that wasn't an issue, it is an issue. You can't really expect nowadays even your message to really become like popularized and popularized among moderates if you are maybe too extreme or because what is the stereotype that we think of that people say nowadays about feminists, that they're man haters or they're like angry man haters who like burn their bras and don't shave their armpits or whatever, which is fine. I don't shave my armpits. Whatever.
Ain't no thing.
It's fine. But anyway, veering off topic. Second wave feminism, which is the era that the Guerrilla Girls really became popular in, is more characterized as offering useful critiques of like the world at large, and especially the world that's characterized by this late industrial capitalism that really characterizes many Western nations, especially the United States. And the art world, which both mirrors and magnifies the inner workings of this capitalist system is a really great place to have these conversations about how women are being represented, where are they, what are they doing. And I think that one of the greatest things that the Guerrilla Girls had to offer especially in the 80s, but very much so now, is critiquing, what's happening in the art world, who's in charge. And what basically it comes down to is the people who are in charge of the investors. So investors are attracted to art because it's one of the least regulated markets in our economy. Excuse me. So you can stockpile, you can price fix, you can inside trade. All of these are normative practices in the art market, and they benefit the elite, which are most often white male.
Yeah. Going back to the particular waves of feminism, the whole, it can all be quite nebulous, just like any social movement. But I think the second wave actually started in the 60s and went through the 80s. And then the third wave started in the 90s. And I think we're moving into the fourth wave, which is intersectional feminism, I'm pretty sure.
Which is what they've been critiqued.
Yes. That's actually a good little segue. So to kind of try and define it a little bit. But second wave feminism did start in the 60s with the bra burning and everything like that. And it went all the way through the 80s. I think Riot Girl kind of started at the tail end of second wave, and then we moved into third wave, and now a lot of people are saying we're moving into fourth wave, which is not even referred to as fourth wave. It's intersectional feminism. And the thing with the Guerrilla Girls is they have been critiqued for not being intersectional enough. And what intersectional feminism does is it's not a lot of the previous ways of feminism, all the way back to when we were first, fighting for the vote. It really was white women looking out for a lot of times looking out for the concerns of white women. And that's a problem too, because that's still a pretty privileged group. So now intersectional feminism is this idea that if you're a feminist, you need to look out for the concerns of pretty much all underrepresented people, women, people of color, minorities, anything. They need to be a part of your feminism. And the Guerrilla Girls have been kind of critiqued on this level because they're not particularly diverse. There is some diversity in their group, but once again, it's a low margin of diversity. So there have definitely been some issues there. But from what I can tell, they're trying to correct that.
Yeah,
right now.
and their message has always been intersectional in that their motto is to represent women and people of color. That's been their motto from the beginning. It's just in practice where people can kind of look at them and say, hey, a lot of white women.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of white women telling me what's good for me. Yeah, for sure. There's the other notable thing I wanted to mention, our girl Yoko Ono, and I don't mean that as a pseudonym. We're actually talking about Yoko Ono.
The real Yoko.
She, in 2010, gave Courage Awards for the arts to 3 of the active Guerrilla Girl groups. So kind of like I mentioned before, there has been some moving around and some offshoots, smaller groups that are associated with the Guerrilla Girls. There's kind of been some split, but they all have the same concerns. But anyways, Yoko Ono gave this award to 3 different groups, Guerrilla Girls on Tour, Guerrilla Girls Inc., and Guerrilla Girls Broadband, in recognition of their outspoken support for women artists, for challenging a male-dominated art establishment, and for their untiring efforts against sexism. And if Yoko says it's good, then
I love her. I want to be her. I want to.
That would be your Guerrilla Girl name.
Yoko Ono!
Oh my god.
Yep. Yeah.
You know that I went to the Dakota in New York City and I wanted to scream outside her window. I was like, Yoko! Come down here! I did not do that, by the way.
If you follow us on Twitter, you will have noticed that I retweet Yoko Ono on the reg.
Yeah. And back to the Guerrilla Girls. You know, one thing that I sort of want to maybe leave us off on, I don't know, is this really amazing panel that they did in 1986 in New York City at the College Art Association. The Guerilla Girls participated in something called the Anger Panel. And the Anger Panel was an event in New York City where the Guerilla Girls, in their typical black leather jackets, gorilla masks, and buttons proclaiming, "I am a Guerilla Girl," played a tape. They played a tape at their Anger Panel, and the tape repeated over and over, "I am a Guerilla Girl, and I'm not at all incensed that the Museum of Modern Art showed only 13 women of the 169 artists in their International Survey of Painting and Sculpture show, or that the Carnegie International had only 4 out of 42. I know these figures occurred only by chance. There was no sexism, conscious or unconscious, at work. I'm a Guerilla Girl, and I think that the art world is perfect, and I would never think of complaining about any of the wonderful people in it. After all, women artists make fully 1/3 of what male artists make. So what's there to be mad about? I mean, it's not nice to get angry. I wouldn't dream of getting angry. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this." And the reason why I love this is because there has been a long-standing tradition in the history of modern civilization to characterize women's anger as a symptom of a deeper, like, psychological issue. And I find it very powerful when feminist writers or activists use these sorts of tactics. You know, it's pretty passive aggressive, and it's sort of where we're at now, right? Like in our tactics against the patriarchy.
Well, it's the whole like hysteria argument, you know, if like a woman's upset or if she's mad or if she has emotions,
she's crazy.
Yeah, there's something,
or opinions.
Yeah, right. There's something going on physically in her lady parts that are making her like, that's where it all came from. Like, that's where the term hysteria came from.
Yeah.
Like, that there, I mean, it all attaches to that. We're emotional and we're not logical. Like, of course not, because we have emotions. We're not logical beings. And so the Guerilla Girls in that particular instance are really just kind of taking that and just like kind of flipping it on its head and saying, like, okay, if this is what you think, then fine. Like, we'll be emotional, or like we're going to be sarcastic about our emotions to kind of get our point across.
And I think that's kind of where we are right now, as far as the feminist presence that we are aware of right now in the 21st century. Sort of to bring it all back home, we're all familiar with like Tumblr and other social media outlets that have become a very active sort of forum for social issues. And it seems to me that this tactic of turning on its head these stereotypes of women being insane people for being upset or in any way not okay with whatever it is that they're being forced to sort of accept, I think that that's a really great tactic. I appreciate that the Guerilla Girls are doing this, and it seems to me like it's a tactic that's going to continue in their activism as well as other feminist activism. Sort of to bring it all back home, I think that the art world is a wonderful place for modern day feminists to pay attention to. If you're listening to this episode and you consider yourself a feminist and you consider yourself somebody who thinks that visual culture is compelling and important and maybe even dangerous if not taken seriously, if you believe that these things are real, I think that it's really important to pay attention to what's going on and to be really open and outspoken about indiscretions or discrepancies among representations of genders and what this means. And not just genders too, but like different races and different, you know, like who's being represented and whose voice is not being heard.
Natalie, do you want to?
I would like to share my personal favorite of the Guerilla Girls public service announcements. This one is actually written in the form of a letter, and it's very Tumblr friendly. It's pink. It's written in loopy cursive handwriting.
So Tumblr.
Very aesthetically pleasing.
It's adorable. It's adorable. So,
there's a little sad face, like little flower.
Objectively adorable. I think we're all agreeing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
So, it says, "Dearest art collector, it has come to our attention that your collection, like most, does not contain enough art by women. We know that you feel terrible about this and will rectify the situation immediately. All our love, Guerilla Girls."
Oh.
So, yeah, again.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's cute and it's also upsetting, but it's a playful and humorous take on a really serious issue for female artists. And, yeah. I like it.
Exactly. I mean, I also just love it, though. I like, obviously, the sarcasm in it is what's so great, because it's like, it's so undeniably feminine, and it's like this idea that as females, we need to apologize, and we need to essentially be the softer ones in the situation. If we want to come forward with an issue, we have to do it on pink paper with cursive lettering, and we have to draw a little flower, and we have to be very like, I know, like, we have to just be very accommodating.
Like, I'm sorry I'm complaining.
Yeah, exactly.
I know this is really hard for you.
Because you've always gotten everything you've ever wanted, and so
I'm really sorry.
I'm really sorry about it. So like that's what just from a visual standpoint, it really expresses what females are expected to be and expected to do, and that makes it all the more powerful, I think. But yeah, I mean, they have a whole series of these, don't they? Mm-hmm. They have quite a few different letters.
They're great. They will be on the website.
Yes.
If you've never heard of the Guerilla Girls, you know a few things about them now, and we highly encourage you to do a little bit of research, see what they've done, see what they're doing, and get to know the Guerilla Girls. And also pay attention and question everything.
On that note.
Okay. So anyways, thanks so much for listening. Next week's episode, I think we'll be recording live poolside.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's gonna be nice.
It's gonna be so good.
And we will be covering representations of the bacchanal
next week
throughout history.
Bring on the bacchanal.
Yes. So get ready to party with us by the pool with a drink in hand. We look forward to it. We hope you look forward to it.
Which are both my hands, by the way.
Double fisting. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments on this episode, please email us at arthistorybabes@gmail.com. As we mentioned before, we're on pretty much every social media platform. So like us, follow us. Our website's arthistorybabes.com. We would love to hear from you. Any suggestions or ideas for future episodes would be great. But thank you so much for listening, and
thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye.